hear me? Okay, good. Yes. I didn't do any breakfast at home, so. I did. Shock of shocks. Hi. Fine, how are you doing? Hey, how you doing? Well, now I feel like a piece of flesh. Hey, she did. She told me she got one of my flyers, and she said she just likes to look at my picture during this, and I said, now I feel like a piece of flesh. I'm a man. I have emotions. I'm not just a piece of flesh.
Whatever. Thanks, Ron.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, thank you.
Hello.
Last time I was in that meeting, the university.
Tuesday. I can't remember, but I would do it Monday.
You too.
Well, it's nice that you're still using that photo of yourself when you get your driver's license. That's good to know.
And good morning to you. We would like to welcome you to the very first Legislative Crackerbarrel session for this legislative session of 2025. Thank you so much for braving the snow and the cold and coming out to the Vigo County Public Library on this morning. We appreciate you being here. If we could stand and start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Just want to go over just a couple ground rules before we start. Even in disagreement, respectful communication and behavior are required. Yelling and using profanity and speaking abusively are not allowed. We know those rules. We would like to start things out by introducing our legislators today, and they'll each have 2 minutes for opening comments. We're so glad that they were able to make it out today. And so let's start, because he showed up bright and early today, from the 45th District, Representative Bruce Borders. 2 minutes.
Thank you. This, okay. My apologies, I was eating one of the square donuts. These are wonderful. They truly are. But it's going to be interesting this year. There are several, what I class as 800-pound gorillas in the room. One of them is the Medicaid deficit. You know, I think last year the funding was somewhere around $1 billion in the hole on that, and I know the Senate, from what I believe read, I can't remember if it was in the Howie or it could have been the Tribune Star, but regardless, that they're looking at, you know, trying to shore that up by simply tightening up on the rules on who is eligible for Medicaid. I believe out of 6.5 million Hoosiers, I think a little over 2 million are actually on Medicaid right now, and so that's going to be a big issue to deal with. Another one is going to be the property tax issue. I can remember back whenever the property tax caps became part of our state's constitution. The bottom line was that, you know, and it didn't take rocket science for this warning to take place, but I remember mentioning that it won't just be the property taxes, you know, the percentage-wise, the 1%, 2%, and 3%, whether it be your homestead or whether it be like a rental property or whether it be you know, farmland or whether it be commercial use at the, you know, the 3% end of it. But the bottom line, as I said, you know, if assessments get out of line, I said that is going to be as big of an impact as the percentage, and so we'll be dealing with that as well. Another thing is road funding. Quite frankly, what's going on is that as the cars are getting much better mileage, a number of electrical vehicles or hybrid vehicles, by being the crossroads of America, our road funding is just simply not keeping pace with that, and so that's going to be a big issue as well.
Thank you. And next up, from the 46th District, Representative Bob Heaton.
It's on?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
No.
Am I turned it off? It's
Here.
the light's not on.
You want to borrow mine? There we go.
I'll go set another one.
Yeah, I know.
We'll do a little switcheroo and go ahead and go for it, Representative Heaton, yeah.
Okay.
They're fixing that.
All right, thank you, and it's, well, here we are again, So, and this time we're going to be in a long session, and the session started this past Wednesday, and it's going to be when we talk about a long session, it's a budget year, and we're looking at about maybe $45 billion 2-year budget, and so we'll get into that starting next week. We're going to be hearing from the Commission on Higher Ed and also the universities, public universities, and as well as IB Tech. I know there are a lot of needs there, and I know locally, I, as well as some of my colleagues, went on a little tour here a couple months ago at ISU and looked at their 2 projects that they're looking at for funding from the state, the Homestead Hall and also Root Hall. So, as well as IB Tech, I think they're looking at adding on, remodeling their campus down there, and we're looking at about $60 million plus for funding for that. So a lot of issues out there, as Representative Borders said about the Medicaid issue, so it's a big thing. But also, he did mention road funding. I know Representative Path has, I think, authored a bill this year that looking at the improvements and the widening of I-70 as well as, I think, I-65 as well. But and I talked to Chairman Pressel recently. He's chair of the Transportation Committee, and he's not sure if that's going to get a hearing this year, but as the process goes, you have to get a hearing, and then it's got to go to, in some cases, to Ways and Means because of the funding aspect of it. So, but anyway, there's a lot of issues out there, and so appreciate your being here today, and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Moving on now to Representative Tanya Path, representing the 43rd District.
Good morning, thanks for coming out. Got to check my mic here. Is there feedback? You okay? All right. So, a couple things. There could be a total of 1,750 bills introduced in the next 4 months. So the Senate has already filed their bills. All our House bills are due this coming Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. So some of our bills aren't even up on the IGA website. So keep that in mind. If you ask us about a bill, we may or may not have seen it, just so you know. I am currently on Ways and Means, which crafts the budget, education, and I have formally I'm off elections now, for good or for bad. So now I am ranking minority member of agriculture, so which I think is kind of cool. I'm looking forward to getting to know my farmers and learning a little bit more about the ag community. So that's where I am at that. I have a couple bills. I-70, as Representative Heaton mentioned, I want to expand it into 3 lanes from Terre Haute all the way to Richmond. It's a safety concern. If anybody drives on that, you'll know what I'm talking about. Plus the fact that, we have semis, which we need, driving on I-70 that can literally go from Ohio to Illinois and never stop, get gas, pay any taxes, help us out on our roads. So I-70 is a big push for me. I will also do Project Lifesaver again for those with adults with dementia or kids with autism. They would get a band on their hand, and then if they happen to roam out of our county is covered, by the way, we're great, but if they happen to roam out of the county, you would call the sheriff and they would bing and you could find that loved one immediately. So I'll sponsor that again as well, and there's other ones, but I'm getting the stop sign, so thanks for coming out.
All right, and to our lone senator, Greg Good, representing the 38th District.
Hello, can you hear me okay? Good morning. I'm Greg Good, state senator, former employee of our Vigo County Public Library. In the mid-90s, I worked in the audio-visual section where the common phrase was, "Be kind, please rewind." Remember that?
I do remember that.
Yeah. We try to get people to check out more documentaries, right, than movies. But I want to thank Christy and the team. I want to thank the partners for pulling us together. I want to thank you all for being here. I think our founding fathers and mothers are looking down saying, way to go, America. Showing up, not letting the cold weather and the snow stop us. What's that? Absolutely, Dr. Reynolds. I'm the son of a social worker, a guy named Galen Good, who was a leader in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, 2000s of the community mental health movement, something that started in 1963, signed by John Kennedy, about 3 or 4 months before he was assassinated. I'm the son of a community college instructor, Rena, who taught life sciences at Ivy Tech. I'm living proof of what public education and higher education can be about. I just found out my committee assignments. I said to Senator Bray, I'll serve wherever you want me, but put me to work. I don't want to be at that State House just hanging out. So I'm really blessed. I'm serving on the Senate Appropriations Committee that will help craft the bill, Senate Education Committee, Family and Children's Services, and Elections. So I figured I'd keep my powder dry on some of the actual bills that I'm going to be working on and things that you want to talk about, but that's a little bit about me, and I'm deeply, deeply grateful to be here and to serve you.
All right, thank you, Senator, and thank you to all of our legislators again for showing up. We would invite at this time all of our sponsors to come forward with their question. We're asking that you give your name and then identify your organization. And as they're gathering at the podium right over here, we'd like to recognize our sponsors. They are, of course, the Vigo County Public Library, the League of Women Voters of Vigo County, Vigo County Teachers Association, Vigo County Taxpayers Association, Greater Terre Haute Branch of the NAACP, and Southern Indiana Area Labor Federation. Could we give them a round of applause from this council? You have 1 minute to ask your question, and the legislators have, I believe it is 1.5 minutes to respond, and not everybody has to respond. Go ahead.
Good morning, Terre Haute, and Happy New Year's. It's pertaining to education.
Your name, please.
Sylvester Edwards, president of the Greater Terre Haute NAACP. My concern is charter versus public schools. There's a bill, I believe, coming up, HB 1136, realignment of schools. And as it is, that it seemed like the government is making a decision for something that the community should be concerned with, if there's a concern, by taking 68 schools, mostly in Gary, Indiana, and also in Annapolis. And certain times when the money goes with the kids, so if they're having charter school and they left from one school to go to another, do the money follow that? Or why is it that the state think they should be the one who make the decision for the community?
I'll start. So no surprise, I'm against this bill. It's 1136. I've read a bit about it, and the hardest part for me individually is it's eliminating school boards. So school boards play such a vital role in our communities. We have access to school board members. We go and we tell them what we want. Charters don't operate that way. They have a board that doesn't even have to live in the community, and they make all the rules, and there's no local aspect of it. So I'm hoping personally that this one doesn't get heard.
Other legislators?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Sylvester. I haven't looked at that bill. I think that might be Representative, is it Teska? He's got that bill. And it's going to go through education. I'm assuming it's going to get a hearing, but and it just pertains to what 4 or 5 school districts out there, I believe. So it doesn't pertain to West Central Indiana. But so we'll see how it goes. The thing about charter schools, they've been around, I think here in Indiana, I want to say 24 years maybe. And just to remind people that the Democrats brought that charter schools to Indiana 24 years ago, and it was signed by Governor Frank O'Bannon back in 2001. But And I don't know how many charter schools we have here in Indiana. I think it's just over 100 now. But anyway, and I know Representative Borders has, I believe, a charter school in his district dealing with Duggar and so forth. But and I have one in Ellettsville. But but anyway, I'm sure we'll get more into that in the upcoming session.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Go ahead, yes.
This is, Sylvester, this is something that I'll follow closely as it's making its way through the House, but I am a huge believer in working with local officials, particularly our superintendents, school boards, our teachers, parents, and I have sometimes had to remind, colleagues, just in the 1 year I've been there, if you want to meddle in city councils, then run for city council, right? If you want to sort of meddle in schools, then run for school board, right? And so that's sort of my general approach to this, but I appreciate the question, and I'll watch it closely.
What I might mention too, and I've shared this with the group here before as well, but it's just like at Duggar, for example, that actually came because of an outcry from the community. They had the typical public school there, and what had happened is the attendance had gone down so far, and a lot of parents from, from the Sullivan County area, specifically from Duggar, had approached me about it, and they said, if we lose our school, we basically lose everything. They felt like it took away their community identity, and there was just the pressure actually came from within the community, not from the state government. And then what's ended up happening is that basically the Duggar Union charter school has actually gotten larger than what the traditional public school was. I still advocate they're both public schools, but they are of a different nature. But nonetheless, the parents, the reason that school is actually thriving was simply due to the choice of the parents. They're very, very happy with their school, but that doesn't mean that other schools in Sullivan County aren't happy with theirs as well. It just happened to do, in that case, it happened to be because of an outcry from the community reaching out, and and again, it was more of a local push than anything else.
Thank you very much.
All right. Hello, good morning. My name is Marie Thies. I am the co-vice president of Vigo County Teachers Association and work as legislative action with ISTA. We have some of our other leadership as well, and I appreciate that Sylvester opened the door on 1136. To piggyback on our concern as educators and as community members about 1136, we're not saying that we should get rid of charter schools, even though we're maybe not big fans. We know they're probably here to stay. What this bill does is it disenfranchises voters who have voted for local school boards. It also takes the rights of teachers away in those school districts. They'll no longer have bargaining or some of the things that we have in our public school system. And while this might just target certain areas like Indianapolis, Gary, there's another community down on the Ohio River, a lot of these communities, it could open up doors for further expansion and takeover and taking it away from local districts. So my question for you is, in regards to the disenfranchisement and representation, how do you feel about that, or do you feel it could be modified?
Well,
Good.
when I worked for Indiana State University, I saw firsthand a couple of instances where I think it was right for the state to get involved, in Lake County and in Delaware County. And in both situations, essentially the school corporations were going bankrupt. Teachers couldn't, everybody was paying a price. So I guess I would say only in the most limited circumstances, when you can bring several entities together, should such I think a drastic move take place. I don't know as many of the details in the Lake County situation. In the Delaware County situation, Ball State was involved. And from everything that I have heard as I've connected with people, including teachers, in that situation, morale is high. People have much more confidence in the stability of the situation. A lot of it relates to leadership, and there's a lot of confidence in the Ball State president, Jeff Mearns, and his style of servant leadership. So, but I agree with you, and as I said earlier, I just think the more that decisions could be made at the local level, particularly pertaining to education, working with school boards and the superintendent and teachers and parents, that's always my preference.
Also, just to add on, there's more than 290 school corporations in Indiana. Vigo County is very fortunate in that we are one county, one school corporation. And there's a lot of talk on how do we get less school corporations because of the overhead, of course. And that does need to be a conversation, and the state, I believe, does need to get involved, but this particular one is not the way.
Well, Representative Path brings up a good point about school districts and so forth, and not to pick on House District 45 over here, but Greene County has 5 school districts within that county, and it has for years. And I said many years ago that they need to bring that into one, and because we have to look at the cost, the overhead cost of school corporations, but anything. You know, whether it's local government or township government or whatever the case may be, not to get off the subject here, but anyway, it's, you know, I always talk about follow that money, and it's so true. But I appreciate the heads up on that, and we'll see how the process goes in the next, obviously the next probably 6-7 weeks on this bill.
One of the things, since House District 45 was so rudely pulled into this conversation. Now, one of the things that I want to share about that, however, though, is that even though, all right, Greene County may have 5 different, administrative, basically administrations, a lot of it still boils down to, all right, are those 5 operating as cheaply as what one large one would be? And I've seen that case. In fact, that was one of the things I sat down with, I don't know, it's been years ago, it was somebody on Ways and Means, and we were looking at basically the cost of the different administrations, and they were operating as cheaply as what one large one would have. And so I guess it really still boils down to at the end of the day, what is the actual cost of it? Are they operating as cheaply? And in other words, if you had one large, corporation, would you have, a lot more, a lot more staff members that were costing just as much as maybe a smaller administration for a smaller school district? So again, let's look at the real numbers and see where they would actually fall in at. So.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, before we open it up to public questions, just want to go over some of our policies here. There is 1 minute to ask the question and 1.5 minutes to respond. And if you could just wave your hand, Robbie, in the front row. She is our timer, and she is going to be the one that gives the cue card. So when you see the stop, please stop. I will have to enforce. I don't like being the bad guy, but we all know that I can be. And that goes for legislators as well. I'm equal opportunity. Not all legislators are required to respond. 1 question per individual. If you have more than 1 question, please ask the remaining questions during our meet and greet time, which will be after this. And then questions should be for all legislators. If your question is for one legislator only, please wait until meet and greet time. We don't want to necessarily have a back and forth with just one person, one individual. This is so we can get as many questions in as possible. We got a great group today. So at this point, if you could go ahead and stand and line up. How do we want to do it? Do we want to have them curve this way or this way? As you get in line, we're trying as best not to, and if you could, there's Shalina back there, she'll kind of direct you where you need to stand. Yeah, okay. And if you could just say your name and ask your question. Go ahead.
My name is Susan Strokos. I'm a local farmer here, a small farmer, like any small business.
You may need to bring
I
the
would say, if you could
microphone
just, there you go, just like that, right into the mic. Yeah, that's
Do I
good.
need to start over?
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay. I'm a small farmer, just like any other small business. I pay taxes, my property taxes. A company's been afforded the right to use eminent domain to take my property. They are a private company. It's not the government. It is a private company trying to take my land for their private gain, making billions of dollars. One of the legislations that's been passed is about the 60% pore space. They said they would not use eminent domain until they've acquired 90 to 95%. So my question is, who is going to verify that they have received 60% of the pore space needed, and why are they already serving papers to use eminent domain if they do not have that storage space? I feel, as a landowner, I have the right to see that they have legally acquired their 60% pore space before stealing my land. And I just want to know, what is that verification going to be? Who's going to verify it? And will local landowners get to see the verification? We want it to be independent.
Do you mind, and 60%, what was the space?
We fall under, Vigo, Vermilion counties fall under 60%. They have to acquire 60% consent from landowners before they can store their CO2 under our ground. Every other county has a different
But
percentage.
you were saying 60% something space. What was the word you were saying before space?
Pore space,
Poor.
pore space, the rock beneath my home.
Pore space.
Pore
As in
space.
P-O-R-E. Okay, gotcha.
Pore,
Okay, gotcha.
yes,
Gotcha.
or
Okay.
storage space. They call it a bunch of different things, but it's pore space, the rock. They're going to
Okay.
inject it into the ground underneath my home, their waste. And I just want to know, they are required to get 60% of that storage. I want to know who's going to verify that they have acquired without using eminent domain.
Are
They
any
have
of the-
literally said they would not, they told our Commissioner Klinkenbeard that they would not use eminent domain until they had 95% acquired what they needed. But yet, I know two landowners, and I'm not talking about just a little bit of land, I'm talking about acres of land that they've already sent papers to that threatening them they will use eminent domain, and condemnation papers have been filed.
First, are any of the legislators familiar with what she's talking about, and if so, can they respond to it? Go ahead.
Ron Terrell, not exactly. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
You mentioned the Commissioner Klinkenbeard, I think. Have you talked to him and Commissioner Schweitzer and Commissioner Morse about this? Is it,
Yes, we have.
I guess it's funny because
We
you've talked to
actually
many
were-
times maybe, huh?
Well, yes, we had sent
So what
letters.
have they said about it?
Nothing. And I told them the last time I met with them, I would not bother them again with this because they have been of no help. We have sought help. We've had meetings with them. We've sent emails to them, and there's no response. The people in Vermilion County have been helpful. They actually have been trying to pass ordinance to help us. And they were threatened by Wabash Valley Resources that the county would be sued to shut them up. So that's where we stand.
And what do you want the state of Indiana to do?
I want you guys to figure out, what is the ruling for the 60% that we have, that they have to acquire? Who is going to verify that they have acquired, received their 60% without using eminent domain? And I want it to be an independent, and I feel we deserve to know that they have acquired that 60% of the storage space. I have actually spoke to some legislators, and I asked them specifically, how will that work? And they said they are not sure because in the law, it is not stated. Who's going to verify that? So for our protection, I think that we deserve to know that somebody is overseeing this and that we are not being boondoggled.
Yeah. What legislators have you talked to?
I've spoken with Spencer Deary. He is one of them. He has been working with us, seeing what protections could be put in place, because in our community in Vigo County, this is all risk, no reward. This is a billion-dollar company, and I'm a small farmer. They don't pay property taxes, but I do.
Is there in any way, because I know that this is an issue that's going to be brought up a few times with this, that we can kind of separate this? If there's any legislator that would like to respond directly to what she's brought up now?
60%, yeah.
The 60%, that would be great. If not, you're more than welcome to jump in at the back of the line or have somebody else kind of bring it up, just so that we can kind of break it up into just. I know that's a lot of information for everybody to.
And if
I'm
you
glad you're
guys
able to
don't know
present
the
it.
answer, the next Cracker Barrel, if you could find the answer for me, the bills are 442, 451, and 1209.
Can you give those to us again? I'm sorry.
442, 451, 1209. And I just want to know, yeah. And there are some bills out there that are about this, and Senator Niemeyer from Northern Indiana has tried for many years to get some things in place. I hope you support him. I hope you talk to your colleagues and tell them that Indiana needs protections.
Thank you for the information. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Leonard Akers from Vermilion County, kind of a renegade here. I haven't had any representation from the legislature in my area for 13 years, but maybe by next Cracker Barrel session we will have when Alan Morrison goes to the Department of Natural Resources. But I thank you folks for coming, so you're the only ones that I can talk to. The issue I want to talk about is different than this, although I concur with these people. The issue I want to talk to is, and I don't know that you even have any authority over it, we are served in Vermilion County, at least the southern part of the county, with AT&T for phone service. I learned recently, I have a very good friend and a former classmate that was a research scientist for the University of Illinois for 48 years. He's originally from here, and he moved back when he retired. Tried to get a landline phone. AT&T says, we don't do landline phones anymore. And I think that's very terrible. There's a lot of senior citizens that don't have smartphones, and they don't have a clue how to use one if they had one, and they have to make doctor's appointments, hospital appointments, and various things like that, business and life. And I don't know if there's anything that you can do of any influence. I don't know necessarily a bill, but perhaps some sort of influence that you can get that corrected. I think it's a safety concern. I honestly think it's a safety concern.
May I respond in your stead? I'm fine with it if you're okay with it.
Okay, you have, yes.
There's a company called Community Phone. It uses the landline phone. I had one myself when we had that strong wind about a year or so ago, and everything was knocked out. This phone service works like a satellite, like a cell phones. You plug it into no wire, you plug it into your electric socket. If the electricity goes out, it stays on for 12 hours. I can get you that information.
Well, this friend of mine has I don't know if it's from the same company, but he does have a service like that, and it's terrible. He said he could just move 3 feet over in his house and lose it. He can't talk to anybody. So I still think it's a safety issue. Like I say, there's a lot of people that just are not comfortable with smartphones and cell phones and what have you. I'm not the sharpest in the world, although I've managed to navigate, but I think a question should be asked about that.
Well, actually, I live out in the country, and I'm on AT&T, and I do have a landline. In fact, everybody is amazed that, they're like, you still have a landline? I said, yeah, I've got that and my cell phone as well. And so I don't know, is it that they won't, obviously in my case, I know for a fact that I have a landline, and when we have trouble after a storm or whatever, it's AT&T that we call, and they send a service tech out. So my speculation is that what they're telling your friend, I guess it was your friend that you're referring to, is not that they don't service landlines, but they won't put it in your new ones. Is that the case, maybe?
If I can jump in right here, and this is just a Google search, my journalism nature jumping into this.
You're just as mean this year as you were last year.
You know how I am. But no, I'm actually trying to back up what you're saying.
No, I'm just teasing you.
According to a quick search, it says that AT&T still offers traditional landline phone service, but plans to eliminate it for most users by 2029. So potentially, like he said, it may be one of those things where your friend was advised by them that they're no longer going to do it. but that might be something you might want to reach out to them directly
I think they
about.
might be servicing businesses, and I can understand from a business wanting a wired phone. I really understand that. That makes a lot of sense to me.
But that might be something you might want to reach out to A&T directly about and see if they are going to do
I
that.
bought what I think is probably the last generation of the landline phones, the cordless phone. And I'm glad that I did, because I'm allowed to block up to 2,000 people. I've been getting about anywhere from 3 to 16 calls a day, and it's from a robot. It's Morgan or Olivia or somebody else, and they said, I've been approved for a $42,000 loan, and now it's up to $85,000. And they call every damn day they call. And I've blocked them 265 times. I've blocked them so far.
Yeah.
Well, what if it was real?
I'll send them to you.
All right. Thank you, sir, for your question. For information.
Hello, my name is Whitney Boyce, and I live in West Terre Haute. I am part of Concerned Citizens Against Wabash Valley Resources. My family, my children, and their elementary school are impacted by this experimental pilot project. I am here to inform you about Senate Bill 102 and House Bill 1104, and I am asking that you support these and that you ask your colleagues to support them in committee and get them to the floor for a vote. SB 102 is Senator Rick Niemeyer's bill, and it says that no carbon dioxide sequestration project can cross county lines without approval of that county's legislative body. That would offer a lot of protections. Matt Commons's bill in the House says that 85% of landowners must give consent before the project can go forward. And I'm asking that not only you ask your colleagues to to support it, but that you also ask that the Wabash Valley Resources pilot project is not excluded from these bills that would offer lots of protection to communities and put the power back into the hands of local governments. Thank you.
What was that House bill number?
House Bill 1104.
1104, thank you.
Senate Bill 102.
Just a quick FYI, I was looking up 442 and 451, and they're not published yet. The bills...
Those were past bills that were already...
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, those
They are
were
already
passed.
state
I'm sorry.
statute.
Okay.
And that state statute is 14-39-7, I believe, is what we're looking at.
Thank
But
you.
they were like 2019, 2022, and 2023, the bills that I mentioned.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, first, and this is not meant to sound like a cop-out, but I am going to go on record, I was not in the General Assembly when that original legislation went through. Number two, because this has come up before in previous Cracker Barrels, I have not, nor will I, accept a single penny of contribution from the owner of that company. Okay? Number three, I know Rick Niemeyer really well. He spent 3 years of his life at Indiana State University. He wanted to be a PE teacher. And then his father called him up and said that the family business in Lowell, Indiana, up in Lake County, they own an auction company that this is your one chance, son, to come and run the family business. What's it going to be? And he ended up going back up there. I say that because he's got a familiarity, with West Central Indiana. He's a wonderful, pragmatic leader. I am not on the committee that he chairs, but I'll talk with him about it, and I appreciate you calling it to my attention.
Okay. Those are at the Utilities and the Committee for Natural Resources, just so you know. I know last year you said the train had already left the station. There wasn't much you could do. I wanted to jump on the train as soon as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Kevin Southwood, and I'd just like to ask each one of you to, Terre Haute, Vigo County is rated one of the worst counties in our state. So I don't know what's the problem with Terre Haute, so I'd just like to have each one of you say, like, it might be obesity, it might be smoking, it might be jail overcrowding, education. So I don't know what is our problem with Terre Haute, and maybe you could say what you feel is a problem with Terre Haute.
When you say worst, what are you talking about? what I think is worst, or like what, how did you come up with Terre Haute as one of the worst cities in Indiana?
Well, I think I've seen multiple times in the paper and heard on the news about our ranking is pretty subpar.
In what category? Just all the categories? I'm just trying to
Well,
understand the question.
I don't know about all the categories, but whenever it's like income or poverty and lack of graduation education and, or, you know, or healthcare.
Voting, yes.
Voting,
yes.
I mean, I don't know, you know, what it's ranked on, but, you know, we're pretty subpar in our state. And so I want to know what is Terre Haute's problem that, you know, because, you know.
Kevin, our mayor's right back there. You can talk to the mayor. That would be a start to talk to the mayor.
Unfortunately, this is a Cracker Barrel session,
and we have a cell
not the Terre Haute City Council meeting, so. If I can, let me succinctly ask what you're asking. What would you improve about this area if you could?
I love Terre Haute. Yeah, I do too. Yeah, I think Terre Haute is no different than any other community in the world. We have our immense opportunities, we have our challenges, and that's how it was from the beginning, and that's how it'll always be. And I think the most important thing is when you say how do we resolve it, is we do what we're doing right now. All of us who are here at this moment have come from on different paths of life. And I think the key is not to allow ourselves to be distracted by those, in some cases, are actually paid to distract us. It happens at a much greater level in Washington, D.C., but I think that simply by coming together and agreeing to disagree sometimes, but being committed to some consensus and you know, just holding each other accountable and through the transparency of our local media and so on. But we are so blessed to be in this community. We're blessed that we have this wonderful natural resource, the Wabash River. We're blessed to have a great school corporation. We're blessed to have a vibrant nonprofit entities and four universities. How many people? I was just talking to the mayor of Fishers, one of the wealthiest communities in the United States of America. They would love to have just one, and we have four. So I think part of it is perspective, and part of it is just a commitment that we're going to work to just keep trying to, you know, improve.
And I would argue that we're getting better. So I love Terre Haute. Been here most of my life, and I'm a public servant, and I'm a teacher. I'm a politician, and I know just in the last 6 years that who I work with around these tables, it's getting better. We're having more conversations locally with the chamber. I mean, we are on the rise, and the people in the State House know it. You know, I talk to people all the time. They're like, back to your point, you have 4 higher education institutes. I mean, we are blessed with all these people coming into our city. So we have a lot going on for us. So I'm just going to respectfully disagree with that it's bad.
Well, Kevin, I'm glad I live in Vigo County, Terre Haute, not Malibu, California, right now. But anyway, this is my 15th year being in the General Assembly, and I remember years ago, people would say, "Well, I got the most poorest county in the state," and if I heard that once, I heard that 6 or 7 times or more. But I tell you what, people have a tendency to, you know, get off their rear end and get after it and do what they have to do if they're capable of doing that. And they have that mindset that we can make the community better, whether it's in District 45, 46, 42, 43, whatever. But it's kind of, we have, local government and the mayor and working together, and it seems like, and that's what it takes. So it's just kind of, what I try to do, as I tell people, is I'll try to do all I can to bring money, if you will, back to West Central Indiana. And I'm not saying, my grandkids live in House District, 42, I think it is. But I represent them at the State House. And they don't have to be in my district, but it's just kind of, but we do all that we can. And so I appreciate your comment, but I tell you what, I think it's a good place to live in West Central Indiana, but in the Midwest and in this country that we live in.
Something that I might mention, and this is not a criticism of Terre Haute at all, but that it's a strong local issue that is still, you might say, at the forefront of things, and that has to do with the merger, what was being looked at as the merger between Union and regional hospitals. And I spoke with a fellow that works actually, or had worked at regional hospital, and then the bottom line is he's looking potentially at going back, but we were actually talking in my insurance office yesterday, and he said, well, one of the biggest things is the holdup there is having to do with, and I can't remember the name of the company that he said was looking potentially at buying regional, and so they're kind of in a holding pattern as far as hiring, bringing in additional doctors and nurses and so forth, and lab technicians, and so again, that's not a criticism. After this is over today, I'll eat lunch in Terre Haute and enjoy it, and do some shopping and go get some building supplies and so forth. But having said that, and Terre Haute's the big city that Lola and I come to, and my daughter here lives here in Terre Haute, and but I do know that there's some flux, again, regarding a regional hospital. Some of you may know more about that than I do, but that's something that I know there was, again, it was being looked at the idea that basically regional was looking to be bought out by Union. That didn't happen, and so we'll just see where things go from here. So.
Thank you very much.
Well, the reason why I asked this was because I think that,
Sorry, we're going to have to move on. We've got a line that's forming longer and longer and longer. So if we have a little bit of time, you might be able to do a one-on-one, but thank you. And if nothing else, it's always good to hype up where we are, because this would not happen in every other community, so that does speak well to this area. So go ahead.
Okay, you see the red shirt and you have to be wondering, is this a repeat of underground storage or Red for Ed, House Bill 1136? It's Red for Ed, House Bill 1136. We've had questions about the disenfranchisement. 1136, for the folks who came in later, whatever, is the bill that would allow the state to dissolve any public school district wherein less than 50% of the students go to the public schools, and make it all, I've got 30 seconds. Okay, so I want to ask about the disenfranchisement of the students that will happen under this bill. And what I would like to know is, would you be willing to discuss, would you be willing to back, would you be willing to get behind legislation that would proactively raise the standards for our private and for-profit schools? Okay.
Go ahead and answer to the best of your ability. If you need a follow-up or to clarify anything,
Thank you.
they can ask if they need to.
Could she finish asking the question?
Go ahead and finish it and ask them the question.
Thank you.
And would force those schools to accept all students, not categorize them by whether or not they're gay, whether or not they're disabled, whether or not they're a certain race, because that safeguard does not exist right now.
I'll go first. Yes. So I think one of the problems with, and I don't want to beat up on charters or vouchers, but they have different rules than public education does. And so I think if you're taking state money, you shouldn't be allowed to discriminate against a kid in a wheelchair. That's the easiest way to say it. So yes, I'd be willing to work on that.
I think the only, I will look at it, and that the same level of transparency, scrutiny, it really needs to be a level playing field. And if we're going to use state our tax dollars to, theoretically, follows the student, then I, as a parent and as a resident, as a taxpayer, I want to know where my investment's going. And so I would also just echo that I would want to make sure that those organizations that are reaping the benefit of having our tax dollars should abide by the same rules for all schools. So I appreciate you raising it.
What's your name?
Oh, I'm Deb Herndon. I teach English at Terre Haute South,
Deb?
and I'm a member of the union.
Great. Hey, well, just like touched on a little bit what Senator Good said, as we know, the money follows the child. And I've talked to a lot of parents that a lot of times you're having students being transferred or going over to Northview from Vigo County because they feel like they can get a better education over there. Now, I don't get involved in that, but at one time, my daughter and son-in-law, they homeschooled the kids, just, I guess, maybe 3 of them, but of the 5. But now they're all in traditional public schools. They're all doing fantastic, but it boils down to allow the parents to make that decision whether they want to homeschool or they want to do this or that and so forth.
But if you dissolve...
At the time, they didn't want any government assistance at all from homeschooling their kids, that type of thing. So it boils down to and I've always supported this, that we're investing in kids, okay, not school systems. And so that's what's important. And I tell you what, that's what it has been for years, and I think that's what it's going to continue to be. So appreciate it.
So you're against raising the bar for private schools?
Well, for one thing, you're not comparing apples to apples. Charter schools do not receive property tax money. Okay, so why isn't there a level playing field? Explain that, would you please?
That's not how this works. I don't have to explain the laws to you.
Well, I'm just telling you, you're here telling us. You're telling us, but I tell you, and that's something that's going to be addressed.
I'm sorry, he did
in this
ask a
coming
question.
session.
And pause.
Yes,
So
thank you.
anytime that we want to have a good back and forth, this sounds like a great
see you after.
conversation.
Deb, please talk to me
11:30
after.
continue.
Thank you.
Sounds like a wonderful conversation. And you can join that conversation in the meet and greet afterwards as well. Representative Borders, did you have anything that you wanted to say to it? If not,
I'll be good.
This is one of those first times I'm kind of speechless.
all right.
Yay!
Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
And we will get to it later on. Thank you. Next up.
Hi, I'm here for a completely different topic, and you're welcome. My name is Shannon Giles. I work for Tobacco Free Vape Free Vigo through Chances and Services for Youth. As a prelude to my question, I'm going to rattle off a few statistics, but don't feel like you have to write them down unless it helps you answer the question, because I brought you copies. This year, for fiscal 2025, we are 30th in the nation in our funding for tobacco prevention and cessation. We are given 12% of what the CDC recommends that we be given. We are given $9.1 million. The CDC recommends a little over $73 million. Thank you. Tobacco spends $293 million on marketing in our state. Your other issue that you brought up was Medicaid. It costs, smoking healthcare costs $3.4 billion in our state, which is $1,100 per household. You have given us pea shooters to fight a nuclear war. I want to know, if we raise the cigarette tax $1 a pack, it's $132 million. Even if will you support raising the cigarette tax? I'm stopping.
So one of the things that got me interested in state and local government is a term called securitization. Everybody know what that means?
Nope.
Securitization is a term that very much applies to a number of states, including the state of Indiana. So in the late 90s and the early 2000s, a group of attorneys general, Indiana included, sued tobacco. And then there was a massive tobacco settlement. And the theory was that we were going to take the billions upon billions of dollars of the tobacco settlement dollars and apply to exactly what you were talking about. Then what happened was the term securitization. Crafty state budget directors went to elected officials who were dealing with various infrastructure needs, and they said, we have a plan. We can borrow to secure those dollars and apply it to road funding or other state competing priorities. And we've been playing catch-up ever since. So I can't go back and change what I thought was a very shady deal made by previous elected officials. But again, when I talk about my family background in community mental health, that includes addictions. And I'm wide open. I would want to look at the details around any revenue generation that would help combat smoking cessation programs. But I think it's partly that. And then I also think it's partly working with employers to implement like what Indiana State did many years ago. And that is, if you want to have insurance premium discounts, you have, and we will test you on this, to make sure that you're tobacco free. So I'm for sort of an all of above strategy, but I share your concern and your passion for trying to eliminate that. Yeah.
Shannon, thank you for your comments on that, and appreciate your local, occasionally you write letters to the editor about that as well, so thank you. Yeah, I'm open to that discussion. And what's your take on premium cigars? The reason I say that because I had a bill.
Is that a personal question?
Well, you just mentioned cigarettes. How about cigars as well? So I had
cigarettes and e-cigarettes are taxed separately. Cigarettes are part of a tobacco tax, so cigars would fall into that category.
Right. And I had a bill in the last couple of years, I think it was, that was increased the tax on that, and it didn't go anywhere.
And they have a separate category. It's sort of rolled into the same sort of overarching tax bracket. But $1 a pack raises $132 million. Even if you funded us at the level that CDC wants us to, you would still have an extra $60 million. It's nothing to snap at. So.
Yes, I support it. So we tried in the House the last couple of years to pass this, and it did not pass. But very much in support of it. We also need to look at vaping. Vaping is a huge problem, especially in the high schools, if you teach there, you know. But we also need to look at vaping. We also need to look at cigars.
We are one of 3 counties in the state that has an ordinance that prohibits both smoking and vaping. So, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning still. My name is Aaron Warner. I'm the Vigo County Teacher Association president. First, I'd like to compliment some folks up there. I've heard of some of your names sponsoring a future bill which supports making contributions to education foundations tax deductible. So when that legislation ever is proposed, please support that. I'm part of the Wabash Valley, or I'm on the Wabash Valley Community Foundation Board and the Vigo County Education Board, and that would really help bring more money in.
I've got that bill.
So it's being proposed, it is written, it's done, or in the future?
It will be by Tuesday.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your support.
I bumped up the limits, too, compared to
Fantastic.
what we've had in the past. So, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It's kind of, I'm with you, Warren.
Yeah. I'm here to speak about some ifs and buts. I live out in the country, and so you have to think of ifs. I'm a teacher. You have to consider the ifs. I think House Bill 1136 is a gateway for collective bargaining to be eliminated. Linda Rogers, I've been told, is working to add some wording to eliminate collective bargaining. That would be a huge detriment. It would shut down conversation. Whenever I bargain a contract, I have some incredibly brilliant folks around me who have a wide range of experiences. I'm just a guy, but I bring a lot to that table. I'm a guy who cares about his community. So when I sit at that table, I'm part of the Wabash Valley Community Foundation. I'm part of the Vigo County Education Foundation.
Yeah, a minute goes by really quickly. Go ahead and finish your question.
Let him
Well, I have to go by the reins of the library, if that's okay to go ahead and finish, but go ahead and finish, yes.
Okay, that was fast.
Isn't it?
I'm a union president. I bring that to the table. I'm a father of 2 boys who went through our corporation. I was on a board for the Terra Foods, who's going to bring a store to a food desert in North Terre Haute. I bring all this background to the table. And when you eliminate collective bargaining, you take all the teachers out of the mix, and now it's just administrators. Our last bargaining contract dealt a lot with technology. When COVID was here, we had to go one-on-one. We had to get Chromebooks. There was nothing to pay teachers to take care of those Chromebooks, and we had teachers just doing it for free for a couple years. By me going out and talking to those teachers, they were comfortable talking to me. When a superintendent approaches a teacher and asks them a question, they get a much different answer than when it's just knucklehead me asking them a question. That would shut down communication, and that would be bad. So this ifs and buts, if anyone, if Linda tries to add ridding Indiana of collective bargaining, please vote that down. So I guess I would ask you, how will you vote if the elimination of collective bargaining is added to any bill that's submitted this session?
Yeah, since Linda Rogers is in the Senate, I feel like maybe I should go first. I was asked to be a co-sponsor of that legislation, and I said I'm not going to co-sponsor the legislation.
Thank you.
Sure, and moreover, like any, and I found out about the legislation, just like 48 hours before, So like anything, I said, look, I value the integrity of my name, and so if I'm going to put my name on something, then I really have to believe in it. And, moreover, I'm going to be making a number of phone calls and appreciated our conversation and reached out to Tanya, like I do on a lot of legislation, to get a teacher's perspective, and I reached out to Dr. Hemsel, and it's my understanding that it's not always perfect, but you're talking. It seems to be working to me. And I think what happens here is, in the age of 24-hour news, somebody in Indiana may see what's going on at a place like maybe Chicago, where that's a little bit more of an antagonistic relationship someplace, right? And I don't want to be swayed by what's going on some other place. I want to be swayed by what's going on here. And so that will continue to be, my commitment, and I'll look forward to learning more about it and our teachers' perspective.
I'm quick, yes, we need collective bargaining.
Well, I'm going to take a look at it if it gets out of the Senate. I'm not sure, Warren, if it's going to get out of the Senate, to be honest with you. And I haven't talked to Senator Rogers about it. She represents Mishawaka, Granger, South Bend area, and I don't know what her position is on the Education Senate side, but if she's a vice chair or what. But I know she's had some bills in the past over there that deals with maybe a little controversial issues and so forth, but we'll see if it passes out of the Senate.
One of the things I wanted to make sure of, you mentioned, I think, House Bill 1136, but all of the conversation I'm hearing seems to imply that it's maybe a Senate bill, and I want to make sure I've got the correct.
It's a House bill.
Oh, okay, and so I guess, and where does, I'm not sure where Linda Rogers comes into the mix on that then?
House Bill 1136 would convert those corporations to charters, and
Right.
then you cannot have a bargaining. There's no collective bargaining in there. So I just
Okay.
think this is a sort of squeaking the door open a little bit
Okay.
to end collective bargaining. And then when I heard about Linda Rogers, it's more concerning, much more concerning.
Okay, I'll check on
Yeah.
both the
That's the
House and the
connection.
Senate side. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, say your name, please, sir.
Brandon Sackman, concerned citizen in Terre Haute, Indiana. I've been working with 2 groups, and I promised them that I would bring this before you. I know I speak with all 4 of you at length often. The first, in the Wabash Valley Coalition Against Trafficking, has been very kind to work with the mayor's office on this, raising awareness about human trafficking at the local level. There is a state bill, House Bill 1021, And it does require training and information at food establishments about human trafficking to say, hey, if you see something, say something. It requires those establishments to complete a report to the Secretary of State. I know it's kind of delicate because that is one of those, some people might say, oh, that's too much government getting involved with business, but it's one of those issues that is really hurting the state of Indiana, human trafficking. Sue, I'll be very careful how I say this. I don't want to insinuate that our casino has any issues with human trafficking, but other casinos around the state have had issues. We have not seen that here locally. But because I've seen it in other communities, we want to be proactive and support that. I'm so sorry, I've got one more. It'll be just as quick. The second, I've been working with a number of groups. One issue that we just cannot get ahead of locally is the animal control issue, the spayed and neutered. We saw during COVID a lot of people adopted dogs and cats, then just after that they were going back to work, and now they're all over our streets. I actually almost got bit twice in the last 3 weeks, out picking up trash or doing stuff with snow by stray dogs. Indiana Code 36-46-3-12, animal negligence is currently a misdemeanor. Kentucky is one of the states that has raised that and said, no, it's going to be higher than that. Class A misdemeanor, and they're seeing some better effects there. I know locally we're diving into our city ordinances. We've updated several. We're going to update more. Code enforcement's been given more resources, and we have written 50% more animal code tickets than previous years. So we're doing a lot here locally, but that state level charge, if we could look at potentially upping that, would be helpful for our county prosecutor and law enforcement. I mean, I feel for those guys. They've got a ton that they're charged to do, and then you're dealing with cats and dogs kind of going at people, and negligence can be difficult. So those are just two really pointed ones. Thank you.
So, Mayor, are you asking for money?
No. Neither of those require money. No, don't worry.
Thank you.
Yes, the 1021 is just requiring the training and some documents for food and lodging establishments with human trafficking. And I have not seen a bill as it relates to upping that misdemeanor up. I just want to put that on that radar. I know this is a budget year, so there's a lot going on. Maybe even next year when there's some more time looking at the animal laws and how individuals treat them at the state code there.
Thank you. I hope I'm wrong on this, but I fear that the last 4 years of negligence of securing the southern border, we're going to be feeling the impacts of that for the next 20 years. Whether it is the absolute appalling action of human trafficking, trafficking illegal firearms, trafficking illegal drugs that are killing people, and fentanyl. And it begins, first and foremost, making sure that our borders are secured and that we have an immigration system that is fair. Secondarily to that, and I've been working with our local construction trades groups to do an E-Verify program. Right now, there are individuals who are here illegally who are hired and are working on public works projects. And it's got, with good reason, our local construction building trades pretty fired up, and I'm right there with them. And what my bill, I've authored the bill that it will require from here on out any contractor to take whatever the employee is submitting by way of proof of to be eligible to work, in other words, here legally, and verify that with Department of Homeland Security. This is a program that already exists, but we're not doing it here in the state of Indiana. I will do and be behind anything that can try to stop human trafficking. On the second one, we are a rescue cat family. I would take every cat possible if I could. We love all animals, and especially our rescue critters, and I really appreciate you mentioning that. If that's something that's worked in Kentucky, I'd like to take a look at it. Thank you.
My wife would agree with you, Senator. We've got one's enough. Already runs around too much with the baby, so thank you.
Something I might mention as a former mayor, Mr. Mayor, good to see you.
Good to see you, Mayor, again.
It's one of the biggest problems, I'll just kind of throw this back at you just a little bit, is the tickets, even upping the fine or the penalty or whatever, as you probably know as well as I know from having served as a mayor for 8 years, that most of the strays, nobody's going to claim them, meaning that if where do you mail the ticket to? If it's a stray dog, that a lot of times it's, mangy and so forth, and the bottom line is if they're just letting it run loose, the odds are if somebody's going to be fined for it, they're going to go, that's not my dog, I have no idea, it just showed up and we just gave it food or whatever. So I'm dubious that increasing the fine on a ticket is going to make a lot of difference on that. I mean, I'll just be frank with you, what we ended up doing, I turned our street department into kind of an animal control department as well. And we got training on the dart guns, and we would take them to the humane shelter. If they didn't adopt them out, they would euthanize them. I mean, and in fact, we had one of the largest city council meetings we had. The city hall was absolutely packed. People were complaining about that, about the fact that we were, darting so many dogs and they were being euthanized by the Humane Society. I said, hey, this isn't Star Trek. We don't just beam them up, and so I'm not sure shy of just dealing with it in that regard. I mean, it's not something that I prefer, but I don't see a perfect solution other than just simply darting them, getting to the humane shelter, and that's, unfortunately, that was the only thing that we found that was effective, just to be frank with you.
Thank you, guys. And very rarely are there perfect solutions in government. That's why we have these. So thank you, the four of you, for attending.
And if you don't mind, if people do come across strays, we would like to find out the address for Senator Good's house, and I've got some fencing
I'll believe it now.
Thank you very much.
My name's Kathy Brock, and I'm a member of the Concerned Citizens of Wabash Valley Resources, and I hope you guys support the Bill 102 and House Bill 1104. My question is I live on a farm in Vigo County, and we've been threatened with eminent domain, and I'd like to know, how do you feel about eminent domain for personal gain for this company?
Okay.
That's my question.
Thank you. Anyone care to respond?
Well, what I might mention, there are times that eminent domain, is good for all of society. I mean, and I'm sure that probably, whether it come to, the highways and county roads and so forth, I mean, there are times that it works. But in this case, it sounds like it's, just a matter of personal profit for one company. And so again, as you mentioned earlier, and I forgot your name, but Susan, that's something we've got to dig into. You've given us a bit of a head start this year, and we appreciate it. And I know you guys kind of got caught at the tail end of things last year, and in essence, so did we, because it hadn't been really raised as an issue till the last. And I'm not blaming anybody on that. I mean, I'm sure it all hit you smack dab in the face, without even knowing what was, how fast things were coming down the pike. And so we'll check into it. Again, I'm not, as a general rule, I'm not a fan of eminent domain, but there are times that it is effective and it is necessary for all of us, you, me, all of us, but we'll have to look into that, and we'll have to look into it very quickly, obviously. So,
every time we have bills that deal with eminent domain, it's very specific to the bill. So as far as I feel this way about eminent domain, I can't give you that. It just depends on the circumstance. And this particular circumstance, I'm glad that you brought it up, because we do need to find out who's responsible, and it does need to be transparent. So hopefully by the next Cracker Barrel, in reaction to the previous bill, we'll have some information for you.
I would just say I agree. It's a lot of people's lives have been upended through the use of eminent domain, and with regard to Senate Bill 102, what I find particularly appealing by that is, if we're talking about a project that involves, it may be located in one county but it's impacting another county, it seems to me pretty common sense that the local decision makers from both counties need to be involved. So again, I'm going to talk to Senator Niemeyer about that. Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Phil Decker, everybody knows me. I got 3 quick things and everything. First 2 don't need it. I would hope that you would support getting rid of the COPAs. For like the merger between regional and union, if we get rid of the COPAs. 2,
Getting rid of what?
COPAs, it's, you have to get a COPA application in order for 2 companies to merge or something.
Yeah.
The regional union's trying to buy regional. And if they did, I mean, they're one of the top 5 or 10 tax contributors to Vigo County. They would become a non-for-profit. That would hurt us. Second, if we could get like an internal affairs in all departments to help regulate some of these things. Some of the police and fire departments. Third, I agree with Bruce Borders and everything about the animals. Yeah, there's a lot of us out there that do spade and neuter. We do that. I've never heard of a cat mauling a person to death like a dog, where the mayor's almost been bit twice. I would hope we could pass something, who cares, a fine. We could pass something to help those willing to help the animals and everything, maybe get a catio or something the city would back to help us that are trying to do things for the animals. I tried to rush through it, sorry.
Did you have a specific question, or did
if you'd be willing to back a bill or something to help us that want to do the rescues and the strays. But instead of giving us a fine if we're caught taking 5 cats to a vet to get them spayed, neutered, and shot, because the laws are going up, I mean, if you could do something to help support those that are willing. I work with Spade and Neuter League a lot, Sally Cox. They're familiar with her, and they fund a lot. And I pay out of pocket for the rabies, the air tips, the stuff out of my own pocket. But I'd like to keep helping these defenseless animals that are out there because of human neglect. Somebody got them, Christmas present, didn't want them, threw them out on the street. I'm trying to cut down the pet population by getting spayed and neutered, rabies shots, and doing what I can. So if anything you could do to help support these defenseless animals, I would appreciate it. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, I'm with you. I just, I think it's a local issue, correct?
Okay, so
I think.
Talk to him.
Mayor, I'm not on. I just want to say, I've got a good friend, and he and his wife live in Scott County, down by Scottsburg. And they don't have any kids, but they have 13 cats, and 12 of them are in the house. Yeah, and I've been in that house several years ago. But anyway, loving people, caring people, and that type of thing. So, but it's just kind of, yeah, but I would say, whether it's a city council or county council, or good luck.
Just like the Humane Society, they probably got 50 or 100, but as long as they clean and maintain and everything, them animals, I'm sure, at the Humane Society are well taken care of.
Well, if I might, it's, again, back to that, I'm just being frank with you. There is not a law that can be written that's going to make that situation go away. Again, it's not a, beam them up, Scotty type of thing. And then one of the things I had forgot to mention earlier, when I was talking about that, we actually ended up getting actually a local volunteer, and then we put one of the darting guns into his hand as well, and he was very effective with it. I don't know, the city that might be able to do, if there's any funding to, just to advertise and say, hey, if you're interested in dealing with this issue, come on board, and that's what we did in this case, is we funded an individual as well as our street department, and it was actually really, really effective. I mean, it quite frankly was. But there's not, in dealing with stray animals, there's not a pretty solution to it, and I don't think there's a law that you can write that makes it work, because again, even, like Bob mentioned, the folks that had the 13 cats in their house, those aren't stray cats. Those are in their house. I mean, the point of it is most animals that are running around as strays probably weren't a pet that was given to somebody for Christmas or whatever, and they just got dumped loose. It's probably where, the two animals have mated and puppies were born, and they, end up living off of trash and so forth. And I just don't think there's a law that you can write that's going to make that go away. You're going to have to, the bottom line is you're going to have to deal with somebody darting them and going to the Humane Society or the city, euthanizing them, whatever. But there's not a pretty solution to that problem. But it can be dealt with, but none of the solutions are what we would class as pretty solutions.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, so we've got about 10 minutes, and we've got how many people in line? 3 or 4, I think 3. We want to get through all of this, so one question, one response. Let's move.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Flo Evinger with Concerned Citizens, and I have 8 cats.
Are they in the house?
No.
Okay.
Do you hate dogs?
No, because I had peanut butter and jelly. So I have a whole lot I wanted to say here, but I'm going to cut it real short.
Thank you.
This CO2 would not be viable if it wasn't for government subsidies and the 45 tax credits. We need to do everything we can do to stop the tax credits and the government subsidies. This stuff is going to be under my house. This company has no liability for anything. My homeowner's insurance is telling me that if something happens with CO2 with the injection, they don't know whether my homeowner's insurance will cover it because the company has no liability. So what am I supposed to do? Am I going to be moving because some company is getting government money to private gain, and then I'm stuck if something happens? I don't know. I'm just very concerned. I'm concerned about the schools. I'm concerned about all the people in the community. This is just a very bad company.
Thank you.
I'll address the insurance thing you mentioned about your homeowners not covering. I mean, the bottom line, and I run an insurance agency, is that your named perils are fire, wind, hail, lightning, theft, vandalism, malicious mischief, and then you can, if you've got a broad perils policy, it can get into the weight of ice, snow, or sleet. So the odds are it's very likely it would not be covered under your homeowner's policy anyhow. I'm not sure, quite frankly, what they are doing. How far down are they talking about storing the 5,000 feet? It's
the pressure front, and earthquake is the problem, and water.
And they're drilling through the water table to get there.
okay. Again, I'm not sure. Then we could get into earth movement, which is possibly that it might fall under that. I'll do some digging on that, but as far as the liability, are you sure that they don't have liability?
We've got broad liability coverage. We have to prove.
Wait. There's a difference between they have no liability exposure and then they have broad liability coverage. What are you saying by that?
They went to the State House and asked for liability protection. The proof we have to prove it.
You have to prove that if there was an earthquake and that their core drilling and so forth caused the.
The proof is on
Can we dig a little bit deeper into this in about 5 to 10 minutes?
My apologies, sorry.
No, it's all right. We just want to get through these last 2. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Bill Wilson. I'm one that they think they're going to dump on me, and it is not going to happen. How many people in here were in the service, men and women? Raise your hand.
And thank you, guys.
Not a lot
Thank you,
of us.
ladies and gentlemen.
Now, we took an oath when we joined the service. 4 of us boys joined the service at the same time in Vietnam. That oath still stands with us. We've took an oath for the United States and the people, and I will do everything I can to protect the people. Like I said, Tanya, I'm taking care of your kids and everybody else's kids. I don't have a question for you. Is what we need to do. I want to get a meeting at the North High School on a Saturday at 2 o'clock. Now, there's a lot of teachers in here. Mayor, we helped get you voted. Duke didn't do anything. He said, it's not my problem. Vigo and Vermilion County are exempt. Now, between you and these teachers, we ought to be able to get a meeting set up in the North High School, right?
That sounds like something that might need to be discussed with the Vigo County School Board.
Pardon?
That sounds like something that may need to be brought up at the Vigo County School Board, if you're looking
All
at
right,
something with the school.
then bring it up. We need that meeting. People in Terre Haute need to know what's going on. You're in this kill zone. Carbon has been banned a long time ago. They're not going to put the carbon. I've been a pipe fitter boilermaker my whole life. I know about pipe. I know about welding. You cannot take 1,200. I was blew up in the Navy. A 1,200-pound boiler. My neck is broke twice. My back's been broke. Both my hands been burnt up. I mean, I've been all out. I pay a lot of taxes to Terre Haute. I built my house out of my back pocket. I dug all the dirt with a shovel, put all the concrete by my hand. I paid more than my share of taxes. They got my house now 3 times the money that I got in my house. 3 times. I'm not complaining about that. I'm to protect the people. We got to get a meeting. Terre Haute's got to know what's going on. We're just now finding out, people, that in this kill zone, they said, I don't know about that. We got to get this stopped, and I don't know how else to do it. I'm trying to get this from being ugly. They are not coming in there. It will not happen. I don't have a question for you. I just want to get a meeting. We had a meeting there at the Clinton School, and they called it off because they knew that was not going to go on their side. We need one in Terre Haute somewhere to get the whole community involved in this to know what's going on. They've been making shady deals. Now they're putting Morrison down there in the DNR. They were on our side to stop this. Now he's going to give their property rights away. You know, my property rights worth more than $190.
Okay, sir, we've given you more than a minute, and you've brought up no questions for that. So I'm going to ask you to have the back
all right.
later on
Scratch
after that. All right.
We need a meeting. People need to know what's going on.
All right, I'm asking you to respect this Cracker Barrel session, and let's move on to the next one. Thank you so much for your comments.
Okay.
Next person. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Rosemary Scott. I guess I'll start out with a question. For each one of you, please answer, would you support a public meeting to bring awareness to what Wabash Valley Resources is trying to do to this community? Specifically, these people. You know, I'm often asked, why do I worry about it? I'm not a farmer. Think about that question, people. Don't we all care about our farmers? Well, we seem to most of the time when we're in the grocery store, but when somebody wants to put poison into their land, well, we're too busy to come out on a Saturday morning because it's cold. Now, we already know the way you've treated the teachers. We know that they're planning to put this pipeline so very close to 2 elementary schools, one in Vermilion County, one in Vigo County. With what all we expect from the teachers, now we're showing them this kind of disrespect that we would put them in danger, put all those children in danger, put all the people that live there in danger. Please, I'm asking you, don't say, well, I just haven't read the whole bill, or we were blindsided. No, we were here a year ago. This is this community. It's not Gary, it's not Evansville. You don't have to ask other people. How do you feel? How are you going to help? That's the question. How are you going to help? What are you going to do? We all know what eminent domain is. We don't need a lesson on what eminent domain is. We're talking about these people's property. How would you feel? None of you would be for this if this was coming into your home. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would you like to respond to?
Yes, I asked the question.
I'm talking to the legislators.
If you can get a meeting at Terre Haute North High School, I mean, I support that, you know. But I think it goes back to the school board and to open up that gymnasium or auditorium to hear your concerns.
They always do. That's probably something they would never say no to. Never say never, but they frequently use the public schools for public meetings.
There have been a lot of meetings, and I will always support additional meetings, and I'm happy to also help in reaching out to the school officials as well as the company officials, and bring them back and do another overview and face the scrutiny of well-founded questions.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much. And with that, we are wrapping up our Cracker Barrel session. I've gotten text messages for the last few minutes saying to wrap it up.
The
So we've been going
the
over.
other officials
We are-
can't answer?
Yes,
We
I
are
support.
done. Yes, we are done. Thank you.
I would support them.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. This is now the end of our first legislative session for the Cracker Barrel session. That is, we have an opportunity right now for the Director of the Vigo County Public Library,
Yeah,
Christie.
I'm
I'll say
crashing for
something.
just 1 second.
Please do, yes.
I just want to say thank you to Ron Drell for moderating. He's often placed in the difficult position of trying to navigate time and passion and wanting to give opportunity for discussion. Please know and understand that all of the rules around timing and trying to keep things moving is purely done out of a desire to make sure that there's equitable opportunity for folks to bring things forward. So, Rondrell, we put you in a tough spot sometimes.
Okay.
You navigate it with grace. Thank you for continuing to do so.
I'm a masochist, I enjoy it. So. It's fun. Thank you so much, and I appreciate your time. At this point, we are going to have, do we have time for closing statements from our legislators? All right, we're going to give them a minute and a half each to say their closing thoughts before we wrap up the session. And we'll start on the opposite end.
Sure. Well, thank you. I echo Christie's point. I want to, because we really weren't able to get to some of the other kind of priorities that I'm pursuing. Just very quickly, much more scrutiny in state government. My own experience with various government agencies that have advisory councils or decision-making commissions. You can go to that website and go to then a little bit deeper in the website, a little bit deeper, sometimes 4, 5, 6, 7 clicks, and you still can't find out when these groups are meeting and where. And so my number one priority is to require every agency to have at the top of the main webpage when and where the next meeting will occur. Again, the scrutiny that I know you all want. Much greater scrutiny and some new guardrails with the IEDC, Indiana Economic Development Corporation. It is not your traditional state agency. That was done on purpose. And whether it's water, whether it's how they allocate tax dollars in the name of regional economic development, there's too much happening behind closed doors. And so I'm gonna be looking at that. And then I'm working with groups like the ADL on trying to stop really terrible acts, things like threatening leafletting. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but at another time I can talk a little bit about that. But bullying, intimidating tactics of trying to bully people in a very terrible way. As well as, and I know I've got to stop, but I've got to say this right now, that there are agencies who are under contract with the FSSA who are hiring home health care workers who should not be in the home health care business. And it's come to my attention a number of situations, and that I'm going to work very, very hard to make some changes in that regard. So, but thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to be here.
So there's a lot going on. You know, we come to these Cracker Barrels and we talk about a few issues, but there's just a lot going on. One of the things that Senator Good and I have been talking about with a lot of different people are water rights. So Indiana doesn't have any water rights right now. We don't protect our own Wabash River. And I believe that water is the currency of the future. And so we were both involved, if I may say that, we're both involved with talking and drafting bills and co-signing and advocating for, we need to protect our own water in our state. So, and that kind of goes back to carbon capture and what they're doing up there. So there's a lot of discussions on that. Also, one of my bills is more money for our counselors. Indiana has chosen to change the diploma requirements for the third time in 12 years. So we need more counselors, and so one of my bills is to make sure there's some more money for that particular issue. But I'm looking forward to the session. It is, it's a lot of give and take. So imagine 150 people, they think they know what's best. So there's a lot of compromise. So whatever starts, whatever the bill looks like, I just like to warn people, whatever the bill looks like coming out of the gate, I haven't seen one stay the same. I mean, it's very rare. So there's a lot of opportunities to amend bills, to change things. And so we, along with you, will go through the process together, and thanks for showing up.
Okay. Again, thank you all for coming. I do have, like Aaron mentioned about the Vigo County Community Foundation, and I've got that bill, and I've got Representative Path on that bill with me, along with the two other colleagues of mine who's in Ways and Means Committee, Representative Dave Heine from New Haven, and also Representative Carrie Hamilton from the northeast side of Indianapolis. So we'll see where that goes. I know Senator Ford had that bill before, and he had the amount of money in there, this amount, so to speak, and mine went way higher than that, because I just thought, the more money you can provide for a tax credit for something like this, that would entice people to give to that organization. So we'll see how that goes in the next few weeks. One thing, I had a person at church about 3 months ago came up to me, of all places, and asked me, he said, Bob, I heard that the state of Indiana has $8 billion in surplus, in reserve. I said, Matt, that sounds a little high to me, but let me check on that. And so I checked on it, and it wasn't $8 billion, it was $2.55 billion, which is still a lot of money, as of June 30th of this past year. And so in doing the math, I asked one of my colleagues over at the State House, that works behind the scenes, who's involved in this. I said, how much does it take, what is the overhead per day to pay our bills here in the state of Indiana? Because years ago it was $47 million. Well, this time around, it's $62 million is our daily overhead expense, okay? That's a lot of money. Well, if you do the math, that's 41 and a half days of money that we have to pay our bills in the state of Indiana. So, as I tell people, when you're asking for money, get in line, and because a lot of people, a lot of great organizations need all the money that they can get. So, but it's going to be maybe a tough, long session, but we'll see how it goes. But a lot of issues to deal with, and so we'll see how it goes down the road. And I might say I don't think I can be here next month, but whoever our new representative in House District 42, whoever that is, I'll encourage them to be here next month. So thank you.
One of the things I guess I might mention, I'm really into results, not just into talk, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but the public meeting that's been brought up about the carbon capture, I mean, what I would suggest, and I'm not sure, if you can, get a couple of folks that are basically willing to spearhead that. I mean, I would, the Lord willing, if we're in session, but it's a crazy time, but if it's on a weekend, I'd love to make it to that meeting myself. But you also are going to have to decide, okay, obviously the net result you want is to stop it from occurring. But the bottom line is if you don't have it well organized, then it'll just simply be a matter of everybody getting together, getting angry, and then no different results. And you all know that. I mean, everybody that's spoken on that issue today, you can tell you're very bright and articulate. And so I guess I would encourage you to do that. I'll be glad to give you my cell phone number, my email. I'd love to come to it. I think probably any of us up here would. But it'll have to be done quickly. I would imagine one of the school corporations, imagine the Vigo County School Corporation would work with you on providing a facility or allowing one to be there. But you're going to need to get all the players in the game in order for it to be other than just a, we're mad type of thing. I mean, the bottom of the line is you're looking for results. And so just an encouragement for you, but I'll be glad to give you my contact information. And also too, we need to get the mayor's cell phone given out for the animal control thing. So, All right, thanks so much.
And thank you all for attending. Our next session will be February the 8th. Again, thank you for all of your comments and for braving the snow. I wish you the very best. Have a good day.
All right, give me a minute here, okay? I've got a hard deadline to get for another constituent meeting.
I didn't have a conversation, I just want to know if you